We're going to go ahead and get started, and I'll just tell y'all what we're doing. We're going to be recording this presentation this morning, and we've got a number of school districts, about 30 here in Texas, and then some school districts from 8 different states with large rural populations. We're going to be recording this and putting it on YouTube, and we're going to be encouraging our schools to show this to as many of your students as you can figure out logistically how to do it. Just a little bit of background in case you're unfamiliar as a student what we're doing. My name's Kim Alexander, and I'm CEO of Collegiate Edu-Nation, and we work with small and rural schools around the state, now around the country, to help them align with higher ed and workforce to increase post-secondary credential attainment for rural students. 99% of the jobs created in the United States since 2008 require a post-secondary credential. The dilemma in Texas is we have record high school graduation rates, but only 22% of our graduates are earning a post-secondary credential by age 24. In rural sectors, it's 13%. Estimated loss in lifetime earnings of $208 billion per cohort. So that's the interest in tri-agency and aligning with higher ed and workforce. But workforce is the end game. But we know in rural communities, as the school goes, so goes the community. So we're trying to create a more highly educated rural population that will lead to the innovation and rural job creation. I'm particularly glad today to have Curtis Donaldson with the Texas A&M Rural Medicine Program, and he's going to be talking to you about things that are relevant to all of us, as rural human health care is the #1 STEM workforce shortage in every region of Texas. Texas can't fill half of the STEM jobs because of an uneducated workforce. And one statistic that just sticks in my mind, we're 32,000 nurses short. So huge opportunity for students with that aptitude and interest. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Curtis to tell you about that program, and we will leave time for Q&A at the end. But feel free. This is an interactive. If we have some folks joining that want to put questions in the chat, we've had a few of those. But if not, keep in mind this will be recorded, and we will have a way to connect to follow up. So, Curtis, it's all yours.
Thanks, Kim. I appreciate it. Hey, it's good to be here this morning. I love that we've got some cooler weather for a change, and a lot of us even got rain, so we're a bigger smile on our faces today. I live and work in Mason, Texas, or outside of Mason, Texas, in a small community of Art. I was raised in a rural community, Valley Mills, Texas, population a little over 1,000. Graduated from Texas A&M in 1981 and went to work for corporate America and for an oil company called Conoco, and left them after about 11 years, started my own business, ran it for 25 years, sold it. I was living in Bell County at the time, and then moved to Mason about 7 years ago. And when I got here, I was planning on slowing down and semi-retiring, and a small community bank approached me and said, "Hey, we want to grow the bank." And I said, "Well, I don't know anything about banking." And you talk about a friend of mine always says, you got to keep reinventing yourself. And so I joined this community bank, but God's always got a plan, and I believe that part of that was to throw me into the community to understand community needs. And I always like to tell this history part of the story because it just rolls right in. So I'm rolling along, learning about what all the needs are in our county and our community, and it's healthcare, it's water, it's affordable housing, It's all those things. It's our business climate, our local economy, business viability for our retail businesses. And so, you get a crash course in all of that. Well, along that journey, I got approached by the dean of the College of Medicine at Texas A&M to help them think through a program to address the shortage of physicians in rural Texas. And so I was glad to join that and help because, I live in a community that's got a clinic. We have one physician, one PA, and one nurse practitioner. And so it certainly was impacting me. And so whatever I could do to help Texas A&M come up with a program that would hopefully help Mason County, I'm all in. So I helped them create a program, and we're going to talk about that a little bit today. And then through that journey, we'll talk about how I ended up getting talked into going full time and taking this program statewide. So really, our mission and vision from our College of Medicine is around educating future physicians. That's our med school. That's what we do. We have 250 med students a year, and we want to prepare those students each year. So over a 4-year period, what we call M1 through M4, those 4 years of med school, we'll have 1,000 students potentially, right? 250 a year. And so that's our main resource and leverage point that I'll talk about in a minute that we bring to bear in this program to begin addressing getting these students, our medical students, back to rural communities. So next slide is, a quote from our dean. But wanted to really go through our key goals is besides the shortage, which I've talked about already in Texas of rural physicians, is to provide our medical students with a rural clinical experience. And I got to tell you, when I first started developing the program and was doing my research, I found out that, our students all go to college in these bigger communities most of the time, by and large. Then they go to med school in a larger community, and then they go to residency programs in a larger community. So my first question when I started working on setting up this program was, when the heck do our students ever see what rural looks like, and how would they know? And so again, we'll talk about that in a minute as we design the program to get them out there and get them that experience. But really, our focus is on the healthcare workforce and development of that through partnerships with rural communities and with folks like CEN Edu-Nation. So Kim Alexander is the one that always says collaboration is the key, and it is. Texas is a big state, and we've got big problems, and they don't get solved by any one single outfit or entity. It takes us all, and we all have our own mission and vision. But where we can co-align and work together, which is what we're doing today and what we do on a daily basis, it's always more helpful. Always say together we're better. So, but the most important part of our program, as far as I'm concerned, is our education pipeline, because the most likely student to go back to rural Texas is a rural Texan. 78% more likely to go back to a rural community if they're from a rural community than an urban student. So we've got to put an emphasis there. The most likely person to come back to Mason or El Campo or Uvalde or Jourdanton or keep going, Falfurrias, is a student from there and go back to serve their community. So what does our program look like and how is it structured? So when we first came up with the program, item number one, we got to get our students out, and we got to get them to these rural communities so they can see what rural practice looks like. So job one for me was to go out and begin setting up affiliation agreements with clinics and hospitals in these counties. And so we piloted the program in Mason and B County, and the pilot went so well of the program I'm about to describe. The dean asked me to go statewide, and I said, well, I've got a job. And but when the mothership calls, you can't hang up. So I went to work for Texas A&M 2 years ago. I volunteered for 2 years, by the way, and they didn't zero back pay on that, by the way. But which is okay. It's my alma mater. But I've worked for them the last 2 years. And so this program today exists in 45 counties, 25 more in process. But our rotation sites currently, we've got 23 current rural rotation sites. And I'll address the difference between that and the 45 here in just a minute. But basically, it is we don't have the student population to send to all of our sites yet. We got way ahead collecting these sites and getting them started up. But we sign an affiliation agreement with a hospital or clinic. Then we onboard the physician that's going to precept our students via faculty appointment. And once they're faculty appointed, then we can legally send our students out for a 2-week rotation in these rural communities to see what rural practice looks like. And it's gone so well. I will say we've grown from 4 students in the pilot year to 16 to 29 to 30 plus. But more importantly, the stories that these students are coming back after they've gone and spent time in rural Texas has got our dean to the point where she's making it mandatory starting this next coming class. So this next fall, 2025, the incoming class will be required, 100% of them, all 250, to go on a 2-week rotation in rural Texas. And so that's a home run right there. It just gets, because I'll tell you, some of these students that have gone out on rotation have gone out with not with the thought that they would ever go back, but just, hey, I'm interested in this. I want to see what it looks like. And those students are leaving going, this is what I thought I was getting into med school for. This is what I want to do. It's broader scope practice. The physicians take their time with the patients. They know every patient by name. Good work-life balance. They're going home at a decent time. They may take a call or two when they get home or a text message about something, but the students all left saying, I'm taking care of a community, not just patients, but I'm taking care of a community. So these rotations have gone extremely well, just as what we'd hoped they would when we started this phase of the program, which was to have our students go out and do the rotation. So we've raised money to help cover the housing and the mileage and the food, so it's no cost to our students. We've now also added specialty rotations around surgery, ER, and some of the other specialties where, you can go rural, you can be a rural physician and practice in the ER. You can do OB. You can do, general surgery in a rural setting. And our students didn't know that. And we actually have 2 students that have done surgery rotations that are going to go be surgeons, but they want to be in rural. And so that's their intention. That's what they're going to do. So my apologies. I've got a little bit of a raspy voice this morning, so I'm going to have to grab a little liquid every now and then. And the second part of our program, as we developed this, was really around the support of the community. And when we were piloting this in Mason, we sat together as a team here. And remember, I'm a volunteer at the time, and we said, hey, when these students are coming through here, don't we want to recruit them to come back? And the answer was resoundingly yes. I mean, yeah, absolutely. And certainly our physician here was hopeful because he wants to retire someday. And so we put together what we call our community stakeholder team platform. And we meet with the county judge, the mayor, the business leaders, the bank presidents, chamber of commerce, EDC directors, business owners in the community, ISD superintendents or principals. And we get everybody in one room and we talk about this program and the impact we think it can have in each element of it. And we draw that team in to support their local medical provider, because most of those people in the room will tell you, hey, if we don't have good health care in this community, we're not going to grow. And people will no longer choose to live here. And then the health care of our own people here, but also on the economic side, the money that leaves the county because it's going somewhere else for its health care. So as well as providing high paying jobs or good paying jobs in the county. So no problem gathering these community stakeholder teams. And more often than not, the county judge is on the team, stays on the team and engages the mayors because they get it. And that team also plays a dual role. They help host the student. They come up with the itinerary. So they find housing, they coordinate meals, they have a welcome dinner, they schedule them to go to Lions Club, they schedule them to go to Commissioner's Court and just give their testimony. So while our students are there, we want them out, and what we call it is our community immersion part of the program. And so we want these students immersed in the community to go, hey, I think I could live there. And that's exactly what's happening. So these students are going out to the rural communities and they're calling me after they leave and saying, Mr. Donaldson, I think I could live there. And that really happened in the community immersion phase because I got to know the people and I got to know what this community would be like to live in, to raise a family in. And so, that's the good news. And I'll tell you more good news at the end about some of the statistics about students coming back. So that's our community stakeholder phase of the program. And I saved this last part of the program for the last segment of I call our three-legged stool, the third leg of the stool, and because to me it's the most important one. And so short term, we can send our students out, and some of them are going to go, man, I love Mason, man, I love him, I love Refugio, I want to go back to Yoakum, for example. And that's good because short term we can patch some of the holes and get some physicians in some of these communities. But the long term sustainable goal is building rural pipelines. So how do we engage from an awareness campaign, an inspiration campaign, if you will, to get more rural students interested in the healthcare industry, in the healthcare career options through career exploration? And so what can we do around that? So again, back to Mason, when we started the program, the CT director called me and said, hey, when these students are in town, do you mind if I have them come speak to our classes and our science class? So science teacher and CT director approached me. So the very first student that rotated went up and spent a half a day and kind of gave his testimony. Hey, I'm from Seguin, Texas. This is why I chose to do medicine. And science teacher and CT director said, it's the most impactful thing we've had in years. And I'm like, really? And they were like, yeah, because it's the kids can now visualize themselves. Like this, Kevin Windecker was his name. And they said, Kevin was so genuine, so transparent. He's from Seguin. It's bigger than Mason, but still rural. And they could just visualize themselves through him. And, Curtis, he's much younger. He's closer to their age. So somebody they can engage with. So we thought, okay, that's good. A year later, we started a mini med camp, and that was to get students from these rural schools to a college campus and get them to come see kind of a day in the life of the med student. And of course, we started it with a healthcare fair because we wanted them to expose these students from all these ISDs exposed to nursing program, vet med, dentistry, pharmacy, and public health and nutrition. So we wanted them to engage with all of those other colleges about those opportunities, right? So because everybody's going to pick something different, right? And something's going to appeal to one kid that's not going to the other. So we started with a healthcare career fair, and then we have a suture clinic. We have an anatomy lab. They get to go to a gross anatomy lab and hold a healthy lung and an unhealthy lung in their hands. And again, the kids get back on the bus, they get back to Beeville, Texas, they get back to Foul Furious, and they go, hey, when's that camp next year? We want to go. And by the way, I had a couple of science teachers say, see that kid right there, Curtis, never been out of the county. And, that befuddled me. I was like, well, wait, with all the sports and all the stuff that y'all have going on in the ISD, they've never left the county. And they're like, no, they leave school at 3:00. They're not involved in athletics and they go to work. And so for many of them, first time on a college campus. So there were multiple layers that were very effective in this mini med camp that we weren't really expecting, to be honest with you. But it's been very impactful. We're now in year 4, and last year, really the most well attended and well thought out camp that we have. We're getting better at it. It's still in its early stages, right? Year 4, but each year we tweak it and try to make it better. I will say this, and let me pause for a second. When we started this program, We formulated the plan and we launched it right in Mason and B County. Then A&M hired me and we started expanding to other counties. But along that journey, one thing I figured out is I am not the subject matter expert when it comes to education and secondary education or ISD in general. And so we hired Carol Brewer from Uvalde ISD and former nurse for 20 years, former CTE director. So perfect, healthcare career and CTE career. And she has become our director of rural ISD relations. And our program is way better today having someone that is an educator behind the wheel driving that part of it. So I will tell you that since then, besides, we started with the students going into the classroom, we started with mini med camp. Since then, we formed healthcare clubs in a lot of these schools. They meet, it's extracurricular time, so they meet over lunch every 2 weeks. For example, in Junction, Texas, that's grown from like 8 students to like 40. And to have 40 kids in Junction, Texas, in grades 9 through 12 in a healthcare club is pretty impactful, given the size of Junction. Same as Mason, we're about the same as Junction. And so, we've got like 27, 28 kids in our healthcare club. And so that's just that extra because now we plumb in our students from A&M, med students zoom in and talk to those kids. There's at least once a month where one of our med students will or zoom into the room and Q&A with them. We have nurses that zoom in, pharmacists. So we have different content that zooms into those healthcare club meetings. We can show up live and teach stop the bleed. We show up live and do hands-on CPR and all of those things. And then those clubs also very active in our mini med camps as well. But Carol's just done a great job of going in and listening. The thing I like about our ISD program, it's not one size fits all. There's 4 or 5 options we have with it. You kind of pick and choose what you'd like to do. If you just want to show up at mini med camp, that's cool. If you want our students to come visit in your classrooms while they're rotating in your communities with your local physicians and nurse practitioners, we're glad to do that. If you want to form a healthcare club, Carol's glad to do that. And we're now taking next steps towards expanding in partnership with AgriLife around Explorer guides and really attacking this at a younger age. We found out through research that young ladies start thinking about what they want to do in the 3rd grade. And so we knew we weren't really entering at an early enough stage. We want to build that pipeline early on. We want to provide pathway support. We now have an early assurance program. And by the way, listen, these slides are all maroon and white, and I work for Texas A&M, but we're a land grant school, and our land grant mission is to carry this message to all these counties. And we don't care if we inspire young men and women to go be nurses, pharmacists, dentists, medicine, and they don't come to A&M. They're not all going to get into A&M. They're not all going to get into Texas Tech. They're not all going to get into Baylor. They're not all going to get into our Incarnate Word or Sam Houston. These kids are going to end up in multiple places that are part of this program. We just want them to come back. And that's our goal. Our goal is more rural kids in, more rural kids out in all of these post-professional degrees. And so, that at the end of the day, that's our real focus. So, and then we've now gone and started rural residency programs because we're trying to attack from the 3rd grade all the way through to the time you're a physician. So we don't want to get them all the way through med school and then they go to some residency program that's not rural oriented. And so we've got a rural residency program now in San Angelo, Texas with Shannon. We're looking to start up 3 more rural residency programs. We're hopeful for Brownwood, Wichita Falls, and Longview are some of the areas we're targeting. That way we're kind of regionally dispersed. But carry those students, those rural-minded students that have gone on these rotations. This is what I want to do. Let's give them residency programs and let's keep them close to those programs. Secondly, we're going to regional mini med camps. Those med camps now will be in Kingsville, Texas this year. So really looking to spread those out. We're looking to expand to Canyon at our campus there at WT. and in San Angelo with Angelo State to capture that area of the state, and have one-day camps where schools can travel over and spend the day. And this was an idea, again, that came from listening. Sherry Blankenship, the ISD superintendent at Hereford ISD, before she retired, said, if you had a mini med camp in Canyon, Curtis, I could send 40 kids, but if you're going to tell me it's College Station, we might send 5. And that, that wasn't lost on us. I mean, we hung up from that call and said, we got to do better. And there's still going to be some kids from Hereford go to College Station to that day and a half camp. But man, I want those 40 kids from Hereford going to Canyon. So we cast a wider net and expose more of those folks to career exploration around healthcare careers. So again, we're expanding this year to Kingsville. So we'll have, and those 2 camps have already filled up, by the way. We had 100 each day. And I think Carol told me there's 220 registered for 2 camps, 105 or so per day in Kingsville on the campus at Texas A&M Kingsville. So we're listening. We're out there. We want to know what we can tweak and do better, or what parts of our program work or don't work. Because at the end of the day, it's all about you. It's all about the schools in the state of Texas and how we can come alongside and help. And if some of our programs are, that's wonderful. If we can tweak them and make them better, we want to. If there's something we're missing, we want to address that too. So one thing about Carol, she's really good at listening and about the program. So just some of our key milestones to wrap up here a little bit and answer any questions. We've excuse me. Sorry about that. We've expanded our affiliation agreements. We've hosted 22 students in rotations last year. We'll have 30 in 2024. Of course, we're in 2024. We hadn't wrapped it up yet, so we're now actually looking like we'll have more than that. But remember, in 2025, we start the campaign of 250 per year. So we got to get busy and sign up more counties all of a sudden. So that's good. We also have a rural practitioner conference. There's a lot of hospital and medical conferences around the state and around the United States. None are focused on rural. And so we want to lead that charge. Last year we had one. Sam Houston was there. UNT was there. Texas Tech, Incarnate Word. And so we're leading the charge on kind of coalescing all of us that are interested in rural medicine and bringing them all in for this practitioner conference and focusing it on that. So we've engaged over 380 community stakeholders in 45 counties. Some of the counties have not had students rotate yet. So that's why you saw that 23 number. Some of the counties we've just started up with the ISDs and we haven't started up the medical rotation side yet. So I think Carol told me the other day we're now active in about 60 plus ISDs. It's obviously because there's multiple ISDs in some of these counties. So we've also been able to raise funds, both state and private, to support our program. And there's the map of the counties we're in. The maroon counties, I used to have a map that had gray that showed the in process, but it got kind of confusing. So just know that we're in 45 counties now and about 25 more in process. And so coming to a county near you soon, hopefully, if we're not already. But certainly, again, you'll be able to contact me after this and let me know, and I can connect you with Carol because we can certainly come and start the ISD program without having the medical rotation program, I assure you. We've done that in several counties already. And again, the impact on rural Texas, addressing healthcare gaps, and really targeting the underserved areas. As Kim mentioned earlier, just the workforce shortage around healthcare is amazing. In the Valley alone, in the Valley of Texas, over 3,000 nurses short on any given day. And it's just not acceptable. And I think throughout the state, I think the numbers, it may be 5,000 or 6,000, maybe double that. And that's just on the nursing side. So We've really got to prepare this next generation for healthcare providers. So we got to start early and inspire and create awareness, provide the pathway, support along the way, and get them to a point where we can get them early assurance and get them going. By the way, the program's gone so well for medicine that nursing, pharmacy, dentistry, and vet med are now rotating students. Um, that's been very impactful. They all piloted last summer. They all had the same results we did when we piloted, which is let's go, we want more. And so you'll see more pharmacy students this next summer, more vet med students, and more nursing students, and now dentistry. So dentistry is piloting a rotation program in 2 counties in February of 2025 with the intent of expanding statewide as part of our program as well. Um, so workforce development, very key, very centric to what our whole program is about. Community involvement, we think that's the long-term glue to the program. Everybody pulling on the same rope. I got to tell you, in some of these communities, they've turned the community stakeholder team into a broader group looking at diverse other issues. But which is very, very heartwarming to us because they're kind of going above and beyond because several of them got in the room for the first time together and started having a dialogue and started talking about other problems. And now they're trying to solve those as well, whether it's food security, whether it's green space. We want to have a park. Menard, Texas, we don't even have a park. And this community stakeholder group pulled together and they now have a park with playground equipment and all kinds of things. So that's, on the mental behavioral health side, those are kind of key things that help those communities. And then telehealth initiatives, we're expanding in this area around rural counties. We got 2 counties that had no medical services whatsoever. Through this program, we found out about those counties. Jeff Davis is one of them in Fort Davis, Texas. The other one is Kennedy County, Sarita, Texas. And we have this student group at Texas A&M that takes shipping containers and builds medical clinics out of them. So we approached that student group. And I'd like to report to you today that in February of 25, a container ships to Sarita. And in March, for the first time ever, they'll have medical services there in that county. They'll also have counseling services in that same container. So there'll be telecounseling in one end, and there'll be a nurse practitioner coming out of Kingsville in the other end. And again, that community for the first time will have medical services. The same thing about May of next year for Jeff Davis County. They'll have telehealth with Texas Tech operating that end of the container. And then they'll have telecounseling on the other end with Texas A&M Telehealth Institute operating the telecounseling piece. And again, you can ask Judge Evans, the county judge there. He's just beside himself because it's something they've never had. He's going to be able to have for the citizens of Jeff Davis County. So the funny thing happens when you go start walking around the state or driving around the state and showing up. That's what everybody tells me. You know what, Curtis, y'all are showing up. But we're listening and we're finding these things out, like those 2 counties not having medical services. Again, the last slide, I think, is our mandatory rotation we've already talked about. We'll be increasing our partnerships to accommodate that. So we'll probably have to bump from 45 counties and even beyond those 25 in process to around 90 to 100. Again, I talked about we're piloting rural camps in Kingsville and Brownwood and probably also in San Angelo and then in Canyon. Our telehealth growth we talked about. And then Carol's expanded her School to Scrubs pipeline program. And she just got recently this early assurance into medical school going. And we also have similar early assurances in some of the other post-professionals. But we're seeking additional state funding to now expand and grow this even more. And we'll be doing that in this next legislative session. So there's the Century Oak at Texas A&M, where many people were proposed to and engage, one of my favorite trees in the state of Texas, right down from the Lawrence Sullivan Ross statue. But a great slide there to wrap this up, Kim, and take any questions or answer anything that I may have missed.
Well, that was a very thorough job, Curtis, and I appreciate this so much. We don't have any live questions, but like I say, most of our students are in class right now, but they've been pretty good about getting the administration and the teachers getting these in front of them. And this is exactly the kind of thing that very few of these rural students know anything about, and that's on us. That's a K-12 issue, and but it's just good to see that Texas A&M is trying to do something about a very serious problem in our state, and something that we have the resources to do something about it. We just got to get aligned. And I know, I go back to a couple of years ago when, ours was an initiative. CEN was an AgriLife initiative, and then as Dr. Balabina went to the president's office, it kind of ended up over there. We had no idea all this things going on in rural health that are very relevant to what we're doing. Carol's program in the schools, that adds value because a lot of our students are going to have aptitude and interest for human health care. We're currently using the vet med program as a way to get them some hands-on experience before they're 18. And then now this PTech program where they can actually work in the human healthcare side of the thing as part of their PTech thing. And so these opportunities are priceless. We just got to get the word out and try to catch up with y'all. I really like what you're doing, setting up the rural hubs in Kingsville and in Canyon and around the state. And we're trying to figure out, how can we best support that, because every one of the schools in our network that's growing could benefit from this program. As we talk about ways to grow our own. And then back to your point, these students that grow up in these rural areas would like to stay in these rural areas. We've got to do a better job of creating opportunities for them and getting them backgrounded and prepared to be successful on this. And so I appreciate Texas A&M at stepping up and grabbing the bull by the horns and taking the lead on this as a land grant institution. And if there's a silver lining behind a pandemic, it made rural and the wide open spaces look better than ever.
Yeah.
And it taught us that if we will be innovative, there are a lot of ways to bring high wage, high demand jobs to these rural areas, but it requires a more highly educated rural population. And we believe that's what's going to lead to the innovation that leads to rural job creation. And we all know that Texas is gaining about 1,300 new residents a day. And 85% of the population is urban today. And so 15% of us have 85% of the land mass. And we're charged with providing the food, fuel, and fiber for not only the whole population of Texas, but much of the country and even the world, as Texas is the 8th largest economy in the world, even beyond Russia and some folks like that. And so the land grant mission is more important today than it's ever been, as we've got to get these young folks engaged in being part of this rural dilemma, that there's going to be a lot of problems that have to be solved. 1,000 acres a day is going under concrete, and we've got the water issues and all those things that rural matters. And but we've got to have affordable, accessible health care to be able to survive in rural areas. And so thank you so much. And we really appreciate what you're doing and enjoy working along beside y'all to work together collectively to reinvent rural rural Texas and even rural US.
Absolutely. I appreciate being on the team. Glad to always enjoy working with you guys. And we got a lot more to cover, but I know we're going to all get after it. So there you
Yeah,
go.
we're needing 30-hour days and 10-day weeks to take advantage
Yeah.
of all this
Yeah.
opportunity. But
Yes, sir.
for the schools that'll be viewing this, this is recorded. It will be on YouTube, and we are going to once we get all these sessions. This is day 4 of this week-long Meet the Expert as part of National STEM Week, and so uh, uh, we'll really be encouraging our school folks to make sure as many students as possible get a chance to view these and realize what all the opportunities out there. So thank you so much, Curtis, and
Yeah.
have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thank you. See you.